You are now listening to the Fighting Back Podcast, and here's your host, Jessica Travis.
Welcome to Fighting Back Podcast. This is episode 11, A Survivor's Story. Today's episode contains sensitive topics, including sexual abuse, human trafficking, and suicide. If you or someone you know is in crisis, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK, the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE, or the Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888. My guest today is Hailee Taylor, a survivor, advocate, and founder of Survivors Outreach. From unimaginable trauma to inspiring transformation, Hailee shares her story of survival, faith, and how she's using her voice to help others break free and rebuild their lives. So Hailee, thank you so much for coming here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Can you take us back to the beginning? How did your journey as a survivor start?
Yeah, absolutely. In my adolescence, I went through a lot of different things. It's a pretty rough story. From an early age, I was taken from my mom early on, at 4 months old, because my mom had me in a meth lab. And so at 4 months old, I already had meth in my system from just the environment. So I went to go live with my aunt and stayed there for about 9 years before my dad found the loophole in the system and I went back to live with him. And so I kind of bounced back and forth between my dad and my mom's house. And then I was at the Boys and Girls Club I think it was during the summertime. And I ended up being sexually abused at the Boys and Girls Club. And so that kind of started the journey. It was rough making that transition from my aunt, who I thought was my mom, still to this day, I call her mom. She's an amazing woman. And so I was already a little angry and a little frustrated, I think, with that transition. But then when I was sexually abused at the Boys and Girls Club, I knew it wasn't right. But I didn't necessarily say anything, just because I didn't feel like I had like a safe place. Okay. So that was the first encounter. And then not long after, I was abused by my mom's boyfriend's friend that came into town from Washington. And so I actually went and told my dad, because my dad at that point had become like a safe place for me. He was just a really good dad before the drugs, right? I used to ride BMX, and I still have memories of him training me, and he was just a really good dad, but the drugs just kind of got the best of him. And so I went to him with this information, but when it came time, he couldn't pass a drug test, and so I was given right back to my mom.
Wow. And
she just kind of changed the narrative to make her look like a good parent. And, she called me a liar and told everybody I was lying, and I just made this story up. And so because of that, I ran away.
How old were you at this time?
So by this time I was 13.
Okay.
And so I ran away the first time. I ran away a lot. Be very clear. I was a very rebellious teenager by this point. I was angry. And so the first time was Halloween night. And so I ran away a few times, and there was this nightclub that pretty much all the minor runaways went to, because you could get hired there. And I was young. I really didn't understand what was happening. I was there maybe 2 days before I met one of my traffickers' girls.
Wow.
And so she actually kind of roped me in and was like, I can show you how to make a lot of money just by answering phones. You can make so much more. And me being very young and naive, I went right into the arms of a pimp. And it really changed things for me. I was then taken to California from there. And I was actually the Jane Doe on the first human trafficking case for California.
Wow.
Yeah. I was about 14 at that time. And so I was with him for a little bit. It was one of those things, like I was scared, but for whatever reason, it felt better than being with my mom. And so So I stayed with him. You know, he was abusive. But we got pulled over one night for like a broken headlight or tail light or something. And I kind of just let them know, like, I'm not even from California. This guy, you know, I wanted out. And in a sense, I wanted to feel safe. But it kind of looped me into a lifestyle that I then fought for many, many years, almost 10 years to get out of, kind of in and out from foster homes back to the lifestyle. And I did that for a while. And so I spent a lot of time in the human trafficking world. The last 5 years of it, I was consistent with one pimp, and he kind of made me feel like he loved me. And I think that's what I was searching for the entire time. And so for the first time, I actually stayed. Because I was a minor, I would jump kind of from pimp to pimp.
Right.
And go here, back and forth, just trying anywhere but my mom's house. For me, it was a no-brainer. You know, I already felt like I lost my family when they ripped me from my aunt's house. Right. And then to be sexually abused and then called a liar at such an early age, I just felt anything was better than that.
That wasn't safe.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't safe. And so I stayed with him for 5 years. And I mean, the abuse was in a lot of ways unimaginable. Most people, they go, wow, you know, you only hear your story on a movie. And, but it's my life. It's, you know, it did happen to me. And so I went through a lot of abuse, domestically with him. And I just kind of stayed and was like, oh, he loves me. I can change him. And that was my mindset, because he wasn't like the other pimps where he had a bunch of girls. I was this only girl. And so I stayed. And I was like, I can fix him. I can just change him. And he loves me. I know he does. And then I started like just noticing, like, this wasn't right. This isn't normal, right? This isn't love. When I had my son. So I ended up falling pregnant and with my son, and he's amazing. I tell everybody, he saved my life. He's the light of my world. Even now, he's very funny. But he went through a lot. I went through a lot with him, and so I realized what love was when God gave me that beautiful little boy. And so I would leave and then go back. Leave and go back. And so finally I was able to break free, and I came running to Florida. For whatever reason, I chose Florida. And I kind of started my journey there. So yeah, that's kind of how it all started.
So when you escaped to Florida, was it, okay, I'm in a different place now, I'm away from my pimp now, everything's okay? Or was it a struggle for you when you were in Florida? No,
so yeah, when I first came to Florida, I didn't know how to really function or to live a normal life in society, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I still did have a foothold in the world of sexual exploitation. I was a dancer. And so I was like, well, this is kind of all I know how to make money is by being sexualized. And I started trying to bartend and just different things, but I just didn't know how to function. I didn't know how to have normal friendships. I didn't know how to even coexist with men without feeling like they're going to give me money for sex. I didn't know how to have a normal life. And so it wasn't until actually I met my husband that I was able to know how to coexist in the world. He helped me with a lot of trauma healing, for sure. But he brought me to the feet of Jesus. And that's where the healing really began for me. But it did take a lot of time to work through just being a member in society. You know, just how to have healthy relationships and boundaries within your relationships even. And like when I first started dating my husband, I was very toxic, and I don't think it was intentional, which you find a lot when you're abused, is then you become the abuser. Right. And so first coming in, I was a big narcissist when I first came into dating my husband. I struggled with it, and I didn't even realize it. And it really took me to come to the feet of Jesus to realize, okay, well, something's not right. And I had to look myself in the mirror and go, wow, this is not healthy. I have to change something. And so I'm so thankful for my husband staying on this journey with me. But it took a lot of healing, first coming, into society. I didn't know how to be a member of society, but I had to completely step away from like the nightlife, the bars, everything, and change my life fully, like full circle. And I did have some legal trouble with that. It comes naturally when you live in a world that's illegal, right? And so I was grateful to be able to show the judge how much I had changed, and for them to drop all of my charges, and show them like I'm a completely different person. But that took a lot of work to get to that point, and a lot of healing. Absolutely.
And that's just such an impactful story, just as far as everything that you've gone through and everything that you have survived.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you told me before that you created Survivors Outreach.
Yes.
As a nonprofit to help other survivors. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Yeah. And what made you or gave you that decision that that's what you want to do? Yeah,
so absolutely. So, the first time I was given Survivors Outreach, I wanted nothing to do with it. So I always say God gave me the ministry. Okay. And I was like, I'm just not ready to go back and deal with victims. I didn't feel ready. And so it took me a while to kind of like listen and be obedient to, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is my calling. But eventually I did. And so Survivors Outreach now is an abuse resource center. I felt trapped for so many years because I felt like this was all I knew from a very early age. And so I felt stuck. Even when I got out, there was still a piece of me that was stuck. And so I feel like it's very important for there to be resources. And there's so many amazing resources and programs out there that I had no clue even existed. And so our job for Survivors Outreach is to say, hey, not only are we here to help, but there's so many amazing programs that we can get you through the assessment and get you placed in a safe place tonight. We can have a nice warm bed and, there's just so many amazing programs. I'm able to now be a vice chair of an anti-human trafficking program, and they actually have a safe house here in Orlando. And I'm like, I just want to help. I want them to know that there is a resource for them and whatever it is. So we're an abuse resource, so we cover all wide variety of abuse, and we're linked with so many amazing programs where we're actually able to help. Yeah.
So I know that you mentioned that you tried to leave the lifestyle. You tried to leave your pimp numerous times and kept getting pulled back in, kept coming back. Yeah. When you talk to other survivors of domestic violence, do you hear that as a common refrain?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to domestic violence itself, it takes a victim almost 8 times or around 8 times. That's kind of like that average number before they're able to successfully leave. And that comes from just the mental hold that they have, that power and control that they have over your life. And so sometimes it's financial, other times it might be emotional. But so it takes so many times before you're able to leave. And so some that might only be 3 times, but that average number is 8 times before a victim's able to successfully walk away from their abuser.
So a lot of times when people think of domestic violence, they think of a black eye or a punch or something like that. But you're talking about emotional abuse. You mentioned financial abuse. Yeah. What is that? What are the different types of abuse? Yeah, so absolutely. There's emotional, there's psychological, there's physical, which is what that kind of common stigma is that's what it is. But there's so much more to it. Financial, they could be withholding. They could have all control over your finances and withholding your finances, so that you feel like you can't go anywhere because I don't have any money, right? That emotional, they might start off with what's very common is love bombing, where they shower you with so much love at the beginning of the relationship, and then
when you do something they might not like, right? They take it all away. And you always hold on. There's this piece of you that holds on to how they treated you in the beginning, that love that they gave you. So there's that emotional, they kind of have your heart tied to them. And so no matter what they do, you're still holding on to this version of them. And then you have physical.
And that's part of the wanting love, wanting safety that you were talking about.
Absolutely. So I think it's every little girl's dream to have a beautiful wedding and feel like a princess and be taken care of, right? And so we're always looking for love. I think, especially if you didn't grow up in a very stable and loving environment as a child, I think it's just something that us women especially do, is we look for that love. And so when you find it and they're buying you all these nice things and they're showering you with all this love that you've never experienced, you're an easy target for them to kind of gain that control over your life.
So I know we talked about before the cycle of violence or cycle of abuse.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit about what that is in some people and how you experience that?
Absolutely. So the cycle, like I said, it can typically starts, not all the time, but it typically starts with the love bombing, where they give you all this love and then you do something that they don't like. And they might at first just call you out of your name, right? Or say something that was very hurtful. But that's just the start of it. And then they tell you how much they love you again. And they buy you all these nice things and nice roses. And then you do something else, or you don't listen to what they tell you to do, or whatever that power over your life is. And they start this cycle of trying to gain power over all aspects of your life. So that financial, the emotional, and then they might push you one day. Right? And just a little push. And, oh, he didn't mean to. And he told me he loved me after, and he bought me a nice purse. And then it goes on and it just continues to kind of go further. And then next thing you know, you are being physically abused. Or if you're not being physically abused, it starts off with the love bombing, and then they take all your finances. And before you know it, you have no access to even your bank accounts. You know, your paycheck is being put into their bank account, and they have all the access, and you have to ask for just gas money every day. So this cycle kind of begins, and they kind of find different ways to gain control over your life in these different areas. And before you know it, you feel trapped. And a lot of women feel like, well, that can't happen to me, right? It only happens to certain kinds of women, or, maybe the less fortunate, right? And so a lot of them will start to feel this like guilt or shame that, how is this happening? And
normally I think when people are thinking about domestic violence, they think about a person who can't control their anger, or somebody who can't control their rage and they just end up taking it out. But what I'm hearing you say really doesn't have anything to do with anger or rage. It has to do with power and control.
Absolutely. They're very more calculated, I think, than we give them credit for. It's power and control over your life. Now, they look at you, one, as less than them, or maybe they look at you like you're better than them. However they're viewing you, their main goal is to get that control over you. And so sometimes that might just simply look at, like, you have kids together. And so they say, if you leave, I'm going to take the kids from you. And that's one of the ways that they get that power and control over your life. And so there's different ways that they go about it. And every situation's different. We've encountered so many different women that have so many different stories. But the cycle's kind of the same. It starts out with love. They don't instantly, as soon as you meet them, hit you. You'd be out of the door, running down the street, right?
Yep.
Hopefully calling the police. But it starts with this amazing Prince Charming. Most of the time, your savior, somebody's coming, a Prince Charming coming to save you on the white horse, just being so amazing to you. And then you look up and you go, whoa. And it's so calculated. I don't think people realize how calculated it is. And so a lot of people have that stigma where, where they think, wow, he just can't control his anger. And in reality, it's just another tactic to gain control over you, because he can control his anger, but he's choosing not to. He's choosing to hit you. He's choosing to control your finances. He's choosing to use your kids as a weapon, to weaponize them. He's choosing this. This is a choice, and it's all to get that control, because eventually you'll feel trapped. You'll feel like you can't go anywhere else.
And I know you work with a lot of survivors.
Absolutely.
In my mind, I always think of domestic violence of more like, okay, there's a guy who's hitting a girl who is causing domestic violence on a woman. Is it just, are the abusers always men? Are the survivors always women? How does that?
No, absolutely not. Actually, right now, a lot of our shelters here in Orlando are having a lot more men that are coming in. And that can be men from a gay relationship. That can be men who are in a heterosexual relationship. But right now, there's a flood of men coming in. It goes all ways. Gay women, gay men, heterosexual, both ways, women being abusive, men being abusive. There's really there's no race or demographic, religion, any of that on who an abuser is. Like I said, even coming out of abuse, I began to become abusive. And so I think everybody says, that's what they think. It's a man and a woman relationship. Right. And I mean, I've seen so many videos that truly break my heart, and so many victims that come to me. And it can even be with family. See, it's not always just in a relationship, a sexual relationship.
Really?
Yeah. So you have domestic violence within the family. So it could be the parents being abusive to the children. That's still under that domestic violence. Or it can be siblings, or other family members, maybe not just parents. So when it comes to abuse, I don't think there's really a race or a gender that is attached to it, or even who that person can be. Yeah.
So I want to go back, and I know you mentioned that you tried to leave multiple times.
Yeah.
And finally, when you had your son, you realized that this was just too much.
Yeah.
So what gave you the strength and then really the opportunity to escape from that situation? Yeah.
So my son is definitely the core strength at that time, because I didn't know God like I do now. But it's so funny how I did leave. I think I told you the story. My abuser had like a parole hearing, or he had to meet with his PO for something. And I said, I have to go. But if I can get to the airport, then I can get out of here, because if he doesn't have a ticket, he can't get through TSA. And so I had like a limited time. I packed I think my son had pants and no shirts, and I packed as much as I could, and actually had a family member send me some money, and I actually went to go live with my aunt for a little bit, but I got to the airport. I got in an Uber, ran to the airport, and I ran, and I got through TSA as fast as I could, and I felt safe for like the first time, and I think forever. And it's as simple as that is,
right?
Just getting through TSA, I felt safe.
Because now there's a block.
Exactly. And so I turned off all my location and my phone, and me and my son, we waited, and we waited for that airplane to Daytona Beach, and we started our journey. Yeah.
If someone's listening now who is in an unsafe situation, what do you recommend would be the first steps that they can take?
Okay, so if you're in an unsafe situation and it's actively like you're in danger, I always recommend calling 911 if you're in immediate danger. If it's something that's just progressively gotten worse and you go, wow, this isn't love, or this isn't right, I think it's very important to create a safety plan. On that safety plan, include a few trusted contacts, somebody you can call, somebody you can give a code word to so that they know, hey, I'm in danger and I need help now. Always, if you're able to, pack a to-go bag. In that bag, have things like your ID and your social security, birth certificate. Those are often documents that are the first things to be taken. because they know you can't really do anything without an ID.
It's part of the control.
Exactly. And so if you're able to, before they realize anything, kind of put those things in a bag, maybe an extra phone, and kind of just have it somewhere that's easily accessible, but hidden, of course, from your abuser. And that way, if you ever just need to run, you have that bag and you can go, right? Kind of like I did. I just was able to run. Now, if that's not the situation, there's a lot of crisis lines. I love the National Domestic Violence Crisis Hotline.
So what does that do?
Yeah, so if you call them, so they're nationwide, so not just here in the state of Florida, but they'll locate some of the programs that are closest to you, and they'll help you get through the assessment process.
That's awesome.
And the first question when you call any of these shelters is, are you safe? And I love that. I'll never forget the first time I was helping a victim, and every single one I called was, are you safe? That was the first question. And so if you're not, then they have another procedure to getting you to safety and getting you to them. Oftentimes, it does include the police, and other times they'll just come and rescue you. And if you have kids, 95% of them, I would say even more, 99% of them actually accept you with kids. Kids will never stop you from really getting into a program.
Shelters.
Yeah. So like here we have Harbor House, and they're amazing. They're one of my favorites.
Really
No, I really love them because they even go a step further past the children and they go towards the puppies, and a lot of victims don't leave. They might not have kids, but they have a puppy and they're so fearful that their abuser is going to hurt their animal.
Right.
And so they stay, and it's an honest fear.
That's part of the control.
Absolutely. And they might have hurt the puppy. They're in a fit of rage, they're yelling at you, and then they kick the dog across the room, and it's so scary. And so they're like, oh, well, I can't leave. Where am I going to go? I have a dog. And so Harbor House kind of goes a little bit further, and they have a kennel just for the dogs. And I just love them. They're one of my favorite resources to go to. So there is many programs. So when you call that national, if you don't know any local ones, you can always call the national hotline, and they give you those resources and they help you get to safety. But again, if you're in immediate danger, please call 911. I don't care about the stigma of calling the police. I've been there. Please call them. They will even help you. There's hotels that they can give you nights for the specific to the domestic violence. And so when the police get called, they're able to get you into those hotels versus us, right? We don't have that power. It has to come from the police department. And so there's so many programs, but you have to take that first step. And so if you're in immediate danger, please call 911. But if not, start planning for that departure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know we work with Harbor House a lot.
Yes.
Because once individuals are safe and they are in that safe place and that home, then we can help them with the next step, which is that obtaining an injunction or restraining order against the individual. I know you were talking a lot about before that escaping and going back, or leaving and coming back.
Yeah.
Have you noticed if having an injunction or getting an injunction against an individual helps kind of break that cycle of leaving and coming back?
Yeah, absolutely, because it breaks that contact with them. So one of the things one of the ways I continued to go back was because every time I would leave, I would end up answering a phone call or, looking at the text messages that he sent while I turned my phone off. And it would start that manipulation in my mind. Oh, how I love you. How could you leave me? Right. And so when you have these injunctions and you have these restraining orders, it breaks that. And it's like there's no going back. Right. And they can't communicate with you anymore, and you're able to finally move on and break free from that. I think it is so amazing what you guys do here at Fighter Law. I look back and I'm like, where were they when I needed them? I did so much research because I was just so excited to be here, and I was like, this is amazing. And I found there's a lot of lawyers actually that do that pro bono to help these victims, and it's important work that you guys do here on this side as well. And so I think it's amazing because it, like I said, it breaks that that connection, that communication with them. Absolutely. And I mean, a lot of time when the police do get involved, and then there's these step further, they're in a safe place, so the restraining order, they can't come and find them, versus, you know, sometimes we go and get restraining orders on our own, and then we still go back to the place where we were being abused. They know where kind of to find us. Right.
And I think that's the legal system in general does not work quickly. But the one thing that I love about our legal system are the restraining orders.
Yes.
Because if done properly, and if the petition is filed properly, and all the steps are taken,
Absolutely.
which they're complicated, sometimes people on their own will mess it up.
Right.
But if the petition's filed properly and all the steps are done, you can get a restraining order within a couple of days.
Wow.
And that is really quick for the legal system.
Absolutely.
And that temporary restraining order, even though it's temporary, gives that immediate protection, so that as soon as they file it, you get that protection before the other person is even served.
Right.
So then when that person is served, and when they know that there is a restraining order against them now, that protection is already in place.
Yeah.
They already cannot contact the victim, the survivor. So I love the power of the restraining order, because I really do think that it helps with that long-term safety.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's a lot of victims. I remember when I first started Survivors Outreach, before we even became like a legal entity, right? Really like established. I remember feeling so frustrated with the justice system, because like, what is happening? I had a victim that came to me, and it took a week for them to even charge him, and she had her jaw wired shut. I was so frustrated with the legal system. And then I realized that it just moves slow, but they're there. And so by the time that the charges are pressed, if there is no restraining order in place, they don't feel safe. Then by the time trial comes around, they don't feel empowered. They don't feel secure, and they run.
And they go back.
Yeah. They either go back, or they just don't go to court.
Right.
And then now he's still walking free, or she's still walking free. And so it's very, very important that you get that restraining order. And especially like I said, you guys are doing amazing work, because you guys have actually made it that step, right, to help them feel safe, break that connection, and that communication, that manipulation that they continue to kind of, it's like a revolving door, and you feel like you just can't escape it. And every time you leave, and then you go back, and you're like, what did I do? Why did I come back? And it gets worse.
Right.
So if you get a chance to break free, as somebody who left probably all 8 times, I would say, if you get away, stay away, but find a safe place. There's so many programs, and if you call us, we don't stop. If we have to take you to Fort Lauderdale to get you a safe bed, we will. And so that's kind of the work we do. We don't care how far out it is. If we can find you a bed at a program in Florida, we will take you there. So,
And I think that's the best thing. I mean, individuals who are looking to escape, or who are looking to leave, I mean, I think the first thing is to call you guys. Get in that safe location, get that distance, get that separation.
Absolutely.
And then once you're in that safe place, get that legal protection that you need.
Absolutely.
The restraining order that happens days later.
Yeah.
We do a lot of victim representation as well, so we're able to be the intermediary between the survivor and the abuser.
Right.
We're able to talk to the state attorney, talk to the prosecutor's office and the judge about what's really needed, so that these individuals just don't get lost in the system and then go free.
Right.
So we're really able to help kind of bridge that gap once they found the safety, which is just so very important.
No, it is. It is very important. I mean, like I said, as a survivor, I wish I knew of, fighter law when I was running, because I really think it would be that extra safety net that I think I craved. And I like that you guys do work with the other programs, because that's when the women have already kind of gotten to a safe place and kind of been able to decompress and say, okay, I'm safe. And so it's very important work. And I love what you guys are doing here at Fighter Law.
So what's your message to someone who feels like they'll never get out, or they'll never be able to leave, or they have left and then they came back?
Absolutely. I would say don't give up hope. If you look at me, I went through a lot of abuse. I think the stigma around human trafficking is you're locked in a basement, right? And that wasn't the case with me. I'm a normal person that went through a lot of trauma. But if I can do it, I know you can too. And don't give up hope. I always encourage a relationship with God, of course, because He is the Savior and Redeemer. But continue the fight. Keep going. And please, if you're here in Florida, call me and I will help you get out with everything I can in my power. But don't give up hope. Keep fighting and continue to push forward, because no matter how it seems now in the storm, there's always a rainbow later. And if you've already kind of gotten out, I would encourage you to share your story. Our stories are so impactful and important. I think a lot of us feel the shame and the condemnation after coming out on the other side. And so I encourage you to use it as an empowerment and continue to empower others. We can help each other because we've made it out. And so if you have been through it, use your story to spread awareness and really help those who are still stuck.
And if somebody is listening right now and they want to reach out to you and contact you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so you can call our direct crisis line at 386-675-9702. It's a 24-hour crisis line. Or you can go on our website. There's a chat box that will pull up and we'll be able to respond. There's also our office number, which is 689-232-1315. That's for non-emergencies. Maybe you're not in, a crisis state, but you really just want help or you want to help. Our office number is really good for that. And you can also email us at rgsurvivorsoutreach.com or at gmail.com.
And if individuals are interested in volunteering their time or giving their money, is there a place on the website for that? Yeah,
so you can fill out, there is a form on there a contact form, or again, you can reach us at our email at rgsurvivorsoutreach@gmail.com.
And your foundation is a 501c3.
Yes, that was a big step for us. I'm so excited. Yes, we are a 501c3 now. We are considered a nonprofit and tax deductible. So anything that you give, hopefully we can get it, back at the end of tax year.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story with us and talking with us about this.
Absolutely.
I hope somebody listening can hear what you have to say and can hopefully use that, the information in the future. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. And again, if you're out there and you need help, please call us. Call the national hotline. There's so many resources, and just don't give up hope. You can turn it all around and come out on the other side. And I want to encourage you to keep pushing forward. If you or someone you know is in crisis, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE or the Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you found this episode helpful or informative, don't forget to follow us on social media and share this podcast with your friends. Like, follow, subscribe so you never miss a show, and help others know their rights by spreading the word. Your support helps us keep fighting back. The information provided in the Fighting Back podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as legal advice. Every case is unique and should be reviewed by a qualified attorney who can provide guidance based on the specific facts and circumstances of your case. Listening to this podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship with Fighter Law or any of its attorneys. If you are facing any legal issue, we strongly encourage you to consult with a licensed attorney directly.